time for everyone, but we very much appreciate you coming and joining us today for a rubbish summit that's hopefully not going to be that rubbish. So I'm going to do a bit of an introduction and just cover general housekeeping rules. We'll just stick with that. So general housekeeping today. Fire protocol, we're not expecting any fire alarms, so if you hear a fire alarm, please remain calm. And exit by the nearest fire exit, which you can find through the front door, which I hope you'll be able to find since you came in that way. Or if you need a backup, there is a fire exit in the back here, just in case we're trapped. You should all have on your seats, in amongst the bump that's there, a sticker that you can write your name on. You should also have either a pen or a pencil. And I would like you to please write your name on the sticker. Do we have stickers?
We don't have stickers.
We don't have stickers.
Do you know what it
I think carries on it, yeah. Stickers are about to come to you. So when you get your sticker, if you could please write your name on it and some indication of what sort of group you represent. So if you just hear yourself, please just put, member of the public or individual, something like that. If you hear for a certain group or you work for a business or own a business, just give us an indication of, is it a coffee shop or a retail business, just so when we get into the discussions, people can have a bit of an idea of who they're speaking to so they can know what questions to ask you a bit better. And if you would like to join the Grab email newsletter, it's quarterly, we're not going to bombard you, please don't worry. But if you would like to join the Grab email newsletter, please also put your email on the sticker. And when you leave the event today, please put the sticker on, there's a board next to the door there that says name stickers. If you could please stick your sticker on that board when you leave. We will use that to have a count of how many people have actually been here today and be collecting your emails and use that to add you to the email list. So please name, what capacity you're here in, email if you want to join the newsletter, and don't forget when you leave, put it on that board. We will be taking some images and recording today, so the screen is being recorded. I also have a camera there that's going to be recording the speakers. If you don't want to be shown in the video, please just don't walk in front of the camera and you'll be fine. We will also be taking some photos. They will either be from behind where we can't tell who's who or anything like that, or if we're going to include faces, we will announce it, and anyone who doesn't want to be in the picture can step out the frame, so you've got a chance to escape it. Don't worry, we're not just going to catch you unawares. For the sake of time, I'm also going to ask if you could keep questions for when we get to the Q&A discussion session. We have plenty of time for questions and discussion later, but I'd like to get through the presentations fairly prompt first so we can get to the coffee break. You should all have a piece of paper and your pencil or pen to write down any notes. If you think of any questions during the presentations, just make a note to yourself and then there'll be plenty of time to ask it after the coffee break. So the aims today is to generally learn a bit on how to reduce waste, what things we can do better, and to generate ideas to address the issues, ideally on a bigger scale. I don't want this to just be about the public having to use reusable things. I want to think much bigger today. I would, however, like to stress that this is not a moaning session. So for every moan or complaint that you have, I would like you to also suggest some kind of solution towards it. I will be picking you up on this as I go throughout the session. I even have a microphone to shout it. So the plan, general welcome, we kind of started now and we'll continue to do so. Then we will talk about the reusable cup trials, thanks to the researchers who have joined us here today. We have Zero Waste Scotland here today, and Keep Scotland Beautiful will be joining us virtually. I'm really hoping the internet continues to work for this, so fingers crossed for her to be able to do an entire presentation uninterrupted. Then, estimating about 2:35, we shall enjoy our tea break, and I've already clocked that we have some rather nice looking cakes at the back there. And then at about 2:45, we will start the Q&A discussion session. I know the Oban High School pupils and some of you need to leave early. That's no problem, just leave whenever you need to. Again, don't forget to put your sticker on board. And the proper end will be at 4:20, so we do have plenty of time for discussion. So, on to my official, proper welcome. So, thank you again for joining us today. My name is Kerry Mackay, and I work for the Grant Trust, and I will be hosting today. So, the Grant Trust is the group for recycling in Argyll and Bute. We're a Scottish charity and formed back in 1996, so we've been on the go for a while. And our aim is to protect the environment in Argyll and Bute, particularly by addressing waste and recycling issues. Those of you who are local probably know us best for the Lorry project, which is the biggest project that Grant run and the longest standing, and that is the Lorry and Oban Reuse Initiative, which is a furniture reuse project up at the Moley Recycling Centre. It's a social enterprise business, it employs local people, there's volunteering opportunities, and the funds raised there support other aspects of the Grant Trust work. Our newest project is Remake Argyll. This is an intergenerational skills sharing project, all about sharing skills to reduce waste. And this includes all sorts of things from reuse inspiration just in general, to sewing, bike repair and maintenance, machine repair. Any ideas you have that you can either teach or want to learn, just get in touch with us and we will see what we can do. And finally, the Beaches and Marine Litter project, which I am specifically involved in. So we aim to do environmental education. I work with a lot of schools in particular, doing beach cleans and educational workshops to try and stop litter before they throw it out the car window. And we facilitate local cleanup efforts, mostly through our equipment that you can borrow. So we have a whole range of ways that anyone can borrow equipment. We have litter pick stations where there's 2 litter pickers dotted all across our valley. You can see on the map there, any of the blue dots is where we have a litter pick station. These are ones you can just turn up and borrow pretty much any time during night. Then we have slightly bigger packs at key Argyll locations, and also Argyll and Bute Council are working in partnership with us to host some of these equipment packs that slightly larger groups can borrow this equipment. And finally, for larger groups, I think we can cope with up to 50, no problem, maybe up to 100 if you give us enough advance warning. We've got much larger equipment packs that you can use for some scout camps. Scout camps and guide camps, this is quite popular with them, and that you can borrow from us. Ideally, as I say, try and give us enough advance warning that we can sort things out for that. But it is all free to borrow. So some facts and figures for you in this very whistle-stop tour. Over 10,000 volunteers have used grab equipment for litter picking from when we started counting. And they have cleaned over 8 tons of rubbish in over 12,000 bin bags. And volunteers have contributed over 400,000 to cleaning up Argyll and Bute, again, since we've had records. And I would like to stress that this is a very gross understatement of how much work is being contributed voluntarily here in Argyll and Bute. There's many, many more cleans that go unrecorded that we simply don't have the records for and cannot add to this number. So this is an absolute minimum. And huge thank you to anyone that does participate in beach cleans and litter picks. Keep up the excellent work. Each decade, we see 4 times more plastic litter on our beaches. So this is an ongoing and increasing problem. And here in Argyll and Bute in particular, litter that is coming out from the studies as the most problematic is agriculture waste, which averages 107 pieces per 100 metre of beach. This data is from Marine Conservation Society Beach Watch surveys. So for every 100 metres of beach, you are going to find on average 107 pieces of litter just from agriculture. Then we add in some food and drink related litter. This is the next most problematic type of litter that we found. So as well as your 107 pieces of agriculture litter, you will also find about 57 snack packets, so crisp packets, sweetie wrappers, things like that. And add to that 32 plastic bottles and or caps. So in our little 100 metres of beach, that is a lot of litter, and these are just the top 2 problem items. I'd like to do a quick reminder that your choice does matter. You can make a difference, and it can sometimes be small choices. As I say, today I want bigger impacts to be more of the focus, but we reminder that you can make a difference just by a little choice. So I'm quite partial to a bit of chocolate, and unfortunately a lot of chocolate comes wrapped in plastic. But just by choosing what type of chocolate I decide to buy, I can eliminate plastic. Not specifying one particular brand by any means, but Galaxy in general have recyclable wrapping. It can be paper, or it can be paper and foil, but both of those are recyclable. Whereas plastic, certainly here in Argyll, is much more difficult to recycle if it can be recycled at all. So by simply choosing which type of chocolate bar you're going to have, you can make a big difference to how much litter you create. And you still get your chocolate, it's not like you're sacrificing anything. And certainly for if anyone gets lazy and just grabs the plastic one, not to make you feel too guilty, but once you finish that snack, that wrapper will be in the environment for at least another 450 years after you finish your snack. Be that in landfill if you dispose of it properly here in Argyll and Bute. That is still out in the environment. Landfill is a hole in the ground. Or if it escapes the bin or doesn't make it to the bin, that's going to be floating around the environment. So 450 years, or choose a slightly better bar of chocolate. It's quite an easy fix. I would also like to highlight that we should all be aware of bioplastics. So bioplastics are plastic-like materials, so it looks and feels like plastic, but it's made from plant materials. And vegware is a well-known example that have done a very good job doing their marketing. Most people know about them. However, they are not all biodegradable. You will often see this symbol, and it says on the bottom it's compostable. However, that means it needs industrial composting, which is high temperature, and it will not compost at home. This, unfortunately, many people are not aware of. And even more frustratingly, Argyll and Bute does not have this infrastructure. We do not have industrial composting here in this region. So most of bioplastics should go into landfill, where unfortunately it's not high enough temperature, so they will just sit there and not degrade. Or if people get confused because they look and feel like plastic and think, it's a plastic bottle, just put it in the recycling. That's what you do with plastic bottles. It's not made to be recycled, and unfortunately contaminates recycling chains and causes problems on both sides. Or, as some people think, because it says it's compostable, if you just tuck it under that bush, it's going to degrade, it's fine. Nah, sorry. It's not high temperature there either. So if you think that it says compostable, you could just tuck it under a bush. It's just making litter. It's going to be there for probably at least 450 years, just like plastic, if not further. We've not had time to do studies to see just how long this stuff lasts yet. It's quite a new material. Certainly not had it for 450 years to see if it disappears. So if you want to use anything compostable in this region, please make sure that it says home compostable. This means that it doesn't necessarily need the high temperatures, but I will point out that home compostable is not well legislated, so there isn't really official standardized guidelines for having this label, but it's the best guide we could currently have until the legislation catches up. And finally, all the research shows that of any type of single use, reusable is still the better thing to go for longer term for the environment through a combination of be it land use, energy used to create it, to process it and make it, to transport it, and to deal with it once you've finished using it. So please always try and choose something reusable over something single use. So back to bring them enough. Well, it's some of the good things we've been doing in the Grad Trust. So during COVID, we did our staycation campaign, and part of that was setting up the litter pick stations that I mentioned with the map. So people could get out and about, get some fresh air, and do a litter pick if they wanted to do something good for the environment without having to mix with other groups. There was hand gel on each station. We also are part of the Cycle project. This is all about reusable period products, and we provided every school in Argyll and Bute with an education pack. We've got an example box on the table there that you can have a good look at. But an education pack with example products and education resources, including lesson plans, so the teachers really didn't have to think that much about it, to easily teach this topic and encourage people to use reusable products. Because I'm trying to remember the figure, it was something like there was on average 8 items of period-related litter found per 100 metres of beach here in Argyll and Bute. So this is another one of our top litter problems here. We have a range of leaflets that we've been producing, and they have maps and encourage people to recycle locally. So far we've covered Mid-Argyll, Oban, and Helensburgh. They also have useful labels and symbols guide, because it's amazing what these symbols actually mean. It's most likely not what you think. And a guide at the bottom as to which bin you can put things in. So we have copies here today. Do help yourselves to copy that if you don't have one already. It's a handy thing to stick next to your bins. We also support national campaigns, for example, refill campaign, encouraging anywhere and everywhere to offer free tap water refills to reduce plastic bottle waste. We created a leaflet to try and raise awareness about the change in legislation that happened last year to ban the sale of many single-use plastics, particularly things like plastic cutlery. So we created a leaflet to encourage businesses to A, be aware that this legislation had changed, and B, give them ideas as to what alternatives they could use. And off the back of that came our reusable cup project. Would you like to take a picture of Paul speaking? So I'm not going to talk too much about the project because we have our lovely researchers here today who are going to tell you all the details, but I have a brief video of the summary, sort of preliminary results from, this is just specific to the Oban trial. We've since done another whole one in Helensburgh. So I hope you enjoy this. First off, this wonderful piece of artwork by one of the people that we had on one of our workshops. I shall read it to you because it's not the easiest English. A shark in danger. In Scotland, there is a shark in danger. He has eaten 3 pieces of plastic. Please help today. So this is our lovely future reporter. So thank you very much for being here today. I hope you enjoy the rest of the talks. If you want any more information for the Grab Trust, I'll put up our details here. They're also dotted all around the room and you have leaflets. And just get in touch with me if you do have any questions at all or speak to me today. So next up, I'm going to hand over to our lovely researchers, Marilyn and Victoria. So
thank you.
Bring up your presentation.
I just want everyone to know that we could never have done a graphic like that. Kerry's way ahead of us in the technology. I'm sure you lot could have done it yourselves as well, but
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you. So hello everyone, thanks for inviting us up. It's been really great working with the Grab Trust, it's been really great working here in Oban, it's been fantastic working on the project. So I'm just going to start with a little bit of an introduction to us. I'm going to let Marilyn introduce herself and then I'll introduce you.
okay, so I'm Marilyn Carrigan. I'm a professor at Edinburgh Business School, and my area is marketing and sustainability. And I was contacted by a funder that lies behind some of the money that we got for this Grab Trust project, and asked if I was interested in working with Kerry. And I've got to tell you, I've been in this job for like 20 years, 30 years. It's one of the nicest things I've done. Probably the most enjoyable thing I've done. So that for me as an academic, this has been really worthwhile.
So my name's Victoria Wells. I'm a professor at the University of York in the School for Business and Society. Like Marilyn, I work largely in the area of marketing and sustainability. I focus quite a lot on consumers and sustainability in lots of different ways. Myself and Marilyn have worked together for many years, so when Marilyn was invited, she then took the chance to invite me along as well, and yeah, it's been a great project to be involved in and great to meet so many people across Oban as well, and also Helensburgh with the later trials we've done. So we're going to talk a little bit about the CUP project, but just a little bit of background on this as well, because Kerry asked Marilyn to get involved once the project had already started a little bit, and obviously Kerry's role is very much focused on beaches and litter, so the question was, well, what can we do? What is the best thing we can do to actually help Argyll and Bute with the litter problem they have? We can see here 200 million disposable cups sold in each year in Scotland. And Kerry went and asked on Facebook for any people to put photos on and to say, well, give us what sort of evidence, what is landing up on our beaches? And you can see here, and she's already explained, there's a lot of aquaculture litter, but there's also a lot of food and drink litter as well. A lot of that litter, especially with Oban being such a tourist town and tourist hotspot, there's a lot of litter there that is damaging to the environment. Single-use cups do have a significantly higher effect on the environment. They are not healthy for the environment, especially if you can't recycle them, which is the case for most of them. And 8 million metric tonnes of global plastic waste enter the ocean from land-based sources. So we know that people are using these products on land, but they are ending up out at sea. We've seen a lot of this out and about where they are landing up at sea, and they're causing lots of pollution out there. And this plastic then goes on to kill up to 1 million seabirds and 100,000 sea mammals, turtles and fish every year, which is a terrible thing to think that what we're doing is damaging our creatures in the ocean as much as this. And those single-use cups then go on to create 4,000 tonnes of waste every year in Scotland. This is a massive amount for actually what many of us use as very simple behaviour and don't think about any of the implications on it. So, with Kerry we worked alongside, and a trial was created that went through different stages. You can see first of all that we have the actual planning and setup and the planned planning and setup. The timeline did slip slightly, and that had a few different effects on the trial in terms of the timing of when things were released, etc. There was the evidence collection, there was also the small business collection, and Kerry did a fantastic job of recruiting those small businesses. As you'll see walking around Oban, if you're not from Oban, there are loads of small businesses across Oban, and actually a lot of them said they didn't want to take part, but Kerry was very persistent and managed to get lots of people to take part. And then we were recruited as the academics to do this as well, and there were lots of pre-trial sort of discussions. As the trial started, there was publication and promotion of it in the Oban Times, and also those 3,000 e-coffee cups were provided free, and there are a couple of examples of cups that were used on the table as well. And then there was a promotion, there was the scavenger hunt, which I think some of the school children who are in today were involved in, and there was also lots of promotion around the trial as well. And also, Kerry, throughout the trial, was collecting data about the number of cups that were being used, both single-use and reusable. And that was last summer, so that was 2022, that was done over the summer months. And the summer months themselves had some interesting things. We've also this year been involved in a trial in Helensburgh, and this has used the same promotion, the same process of having those eco-coffee cups, having them available for a cheap amount of money, and actually allowing them out, and so that's happened over the summer in Helensburgh, and we'll see that we've got data for both of them as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a quick run through of what the results actually were, and then Marilyn's going to provide some context to that to give a little bit more about what we understood, because throughout the process, yes, we were looking at the core numbers of what happened, but we were also trying to understand why things happened. And looking at things that if we went forward to another trial, how could we change things? Could we improve things? What more could we do? So these are the Oban trial results. And you can see that single-use cup use went up, and it stayed quite high, but then it also went down quite a bit. You can see for the e-coffee cups, they went up, unfortunately they went down as well. And the total reusable cups also went up during the trial and then came down. So one of the things here is we can see that the promotional efforts had an effect on what was going on. People were engaging in reusables, but what happened at the end of the summer? Now, first of all, there's a drop-off in clientele during the summer anyway. It's one of those things that as the holiday season ends, of course, there's less people using it anyway. But it may have been that we needed more promotion throughout to encourage people to keep using those reusable cups. But it shows that the trial did have an effect, and it did increase those reusable cups. The information from Helensburgh was a little bit different. So the total reusable cups and the e-coffee cups you can see here, the total reusable cups actually went down during the trial, but then went back up again. And the e-coffee cups started high, but went down during the trial. And you can see that single-use cups went down and then went up a bit again, but was actually lower than it was before. So again, there's been an effect here of the promotion, and again, do we need to elongate that promotion to make people really do it all year round? So that's something we're looking at a little bit more at the moment. And I'm going to pass it over to
Okay. So I think it's really important for us to say that this is a really challenging thing to do. And Kerry, there's only Kerry, and you know, if we had 100 Kerrys, I think you would probably have much more dramatic results, because it's very difficult to keep reinforcing this. When we kind of were crunching all this data, and you know, we talked to all the businesses, and we wanted to see what happened, we realised that a lot of what came out of this was more about the challenges, if you like, than maybe some of the successes. But we're academics, and we're used to working with things going wrong, and it's not so much it went wrong. I think what we finally got was some baseline information to understand why it's so difficult for both people and businesses to make this kind of thing work. And once you know what's in the way, you can start to understand what some of the solutions might be. So this was one of the things, and Kerry's already highlighted this, the fact that currently there's no facilities to recycle single-use cups in Argyll and Bute, meaning that all the paper and plastic cups get thrown into the landfills. Now, first of all, the businesses that we talked to and that were involved in this, a lot of them have tried really hard, they were really keen to do something sustainable, and have been buying vegware. And when we were talking to them, we were saying, well, what do you do if people aren't bringing in reusable cups? They said, oh, it's okay, we're using vegware. And we really didn't want to upset people and say, actually, that's great, and it is costing you a little bit more money. They were committed to doing it that way. But the fact was that it was just going to end up in the same kind of waste disposal system as any other kind of cup. And a lot of people seem to be very unaware of that. But at the same time, people almost kind of think that if I use one of these kinds of cups, somebody somewhere is going to recycle this for me. And so you don't feel guilt. And then people were assuming that somehow, if it was a recyclable cup, it was going to get recycled. And it's clear, in a situation like Argyll and Bute, that's not happening. And we had a kind of debrief with Kerry after we kind of done this. We had a big sort of talk about it. And Kerry pointed out something, I think, and this quote from Kerry really kind of captures what's going on. And I'm going to come to some other things that people said in a moment. But she said, due to this combination of the processing system being unfit for purpose, So many different ways of things can be disposed. You know, there's landfill, there's compost, there's recycle, there's EFW. And the customer and public confusion over how to dispose of things properly, along with the lack of consistent labelling, is kind of like a perfect storm. The whole system just doesn't work. So it's not about the lack of will, and it's not about the lack of intention, and it's not about people not being interested in this issue. It's just the kind of constraints on us and the context are making it very difficult. So these are just some of the things that people said to us when we were talking to people in Oban about this. So one of the businesses said to us, COVID's put us back 10 years. It's too scary to be bold. And this was in response to us saying, okay, what if you just said, right, we're not going to use plastic in this business? And they were saying, no. People got really concerned after COVID. They worry about the health and safety aspects of that. And if we do that as a business, people won't shop here. And we can't afford, as a small business in Oban, to do that. And then, of course, you've got the tourist quota. Now, tourists are great, they're the lifeblood of Oban, but at the same time, they're kind of a bit of a problem as well. And although they're a great source of people who might buy and use the reusable cups, unfortunately, the biggest difficulty is they don't want to carry them around, they don't want to carry the keep cup. And there's quite a lot of discussion about how these keep cups weren't terribly helpful as a design, the lids would fall off. And I just want to show you something a little bit different. I picked up this. That was being retailed for about £4, normally about 12, is that right, Kerry? I've got this in Glasgow where I live. This is the difference that people were talking about. It's a screw top. So this could be upside down in my bag and it's fine, but it costs a lot more money. And there's the problem. The design factor on this is really important. If you're going to encourage people, if they're willing to at least carry it around in a way that they feel, okay, it's not going to mess up everything in my bag. This was another quote here. Somebody said, we do use vegware through, but it seems futile. You know, when there's no proper recycling facility, it seems that many businesses have already made the change they need to make by using vegware, and at least half of the takeaway cups we serve are disposed of in bins in our premises. So it'd be really easy for us to facilitate change if we could just get over that final hurdle and actually get them to a recycling facility. So they're kind of halfway there. And someone told us that there used to be a collection of vegware in Oban before COVID, then COVID hit. As we all know, all sorts of things have fallen apart since COVID, and that's just not been reinstated. And that was one way they thought maybe that could work. We spoke to some of the businesses that were saying that, you know, it'd be great if we all used reusables, but we don't. And while we're not doing that, there's a real litter problem. And they said we've only got a small lamppost bin adjacent to Boots for literally hundreds of people that congregate outside our business to smoke, eat and drink. And then they get the blame for the litter. But it's not really their fault. The problem is there isn't sufficient litter facilities to deal with that. So I'm speaking to one of the other businesses. I'm not going to tell you who the businesses were that said this because you know, it's not fair. But they said they get lots of angry customers complaining about not providing plastic. They don't like the alternatives. They want plastic, and no one seems yet to be able to provide a truly biodegradable or compostable option that can go into the household composting that Kerry was talking about, rather than this kind of industrial composting facility. And then this was somebody who was very frustrated, and they said, you know, I checked whether the council, speak to a councillor, was happy for me to publicise that compostable cups could actually be placed in the food waste bins. And unfortunately, the answer is no. They said, we don't want to confuse the message by telling people they can put anything other than food in the food bin. So what they were saying is, we want to keep that message simple, just food. If we start telling them other things can go in there, all hell's going to break loose. Okay? So, these are some of the challenges, and you can see how some of these are just really simple things, but they need to be overcome. So, having identified all this, just like Harry, we don't want to leave them going, oh, what's the point? What's the point of this? There's lots of points to this. And I think now that this kind of momentum has been started in Oban and Helensburgh, there's all sorts of things we can do. So, as a customer, everybody sitting in this room, carry our keep cups with us. I mean, I'm as bad as anyone else. Last time I came to Oban, I forgot it, and Kerry told me well off for that. But, you know, just remember to take our cup with us. You know, it's something you can get into a kind of habit with, so make sure you carry that. Where you can, choose reusable and avoid single use. You know, we were talking at the beginning about even like things we do in the university, they have these meetings, and they won't use reusable cups. We've got facilities, we can afford it, we could wash up, why won't we? If you know a cafe's using reusables, use that cafe. Keep supporting those businesses. They're incredibly dedicated to this, and you know it's important we keep supporting them. And dispose of single-use responsibly. You know, be recycling smart. gen up on the kind of leaflets we've got here, understand where's the right place to get rid of stuff when we do have to create waste, and just educating ourselves on how to recycle and choose sustainably. I nag my husband all the time at home because he's always trying to put soft plastic into our recycling, and it's like, no, it's worse than, he thinks it's a good thing to do. I'm saying, no, it's not, because you're contaminating the stuff that is going in, so get educated on it. Businesses, it was difficult for businesses. Businesses are busy, staff are busy. A lot of people felt very uncomfortable at the idea that they were going to say to people, please, would you like to use a reusable cup? But where you can, promote reusables, offer washing facilities. Some people will kind of say, yeah, but if I carry this dirty cup around and then I go to a cafe, they won't want to wash it up. Yes, they will. They'll do it for you. They were more than happy. Anyone that was promoting that was happy to take your dirty cup, wash it and clean it and fill it up again. There's some really good schemes starting as well. I'm going to talk about them in the next slide. Deposit return schemes. There's one in Stirling that Zero Waste Scotland have rolled. The North Coast 500 have been running one. There's a Recut Europe scheme as well. And I'll show you. And this seems to be quite an interesting way to get over some of these problems. Then choosing compostable single use where there are composting facilities. Yes, I know, here in Argyll and Bute it's not so easy, but in other places they can do that. And then offering customers that option of a reusable when they come in. And then we have the policy makers. They have a part to play as well. It's really important. People can't do this by themselves. Customers can't do it, business can't do it. We need the policy makers to provide recycling and composting facilities and the infrastructure. It was so clear it was very difficult in Oban for people to do the right thing. Provide effective litter bins and collections. Jackie, who I don't think Jackie's here today, but Jackie from Helensburgh pointed out they put these lovely sparkly new bins into Helensburgh, but they face directly into the wind. And what means is that the wind catches them and everything gets lifted out in a kind of like whirlstorm. That was great, guys, but could you put them in properly and it wouldn't have created so much litter in the town? Regulate effective labelling. Labelling is really important. If people are going to use labelling as a signal for what to do the right way, make sure that you get that into regulation and policy. And legislate to reduce single use and promote reusables. We need to have that. It's a bit like the plastic bag thing. We all didn't carry around our tote bags, but the minute it started costing us to carry plastic bags, suddenly we were able to do it. Sometimes we have to use the stick, not the carrot.
And sometimes for businesses as well, some of the businesses we talk to, some of them don't. Some of them give you a discount for using a reusable or for not using single use. That's something else that businesses can think about.
Just something to kind of just give us that little bit of push. So I just wanted to show you before we finish just some of the examples that are around where people are testing out how we might do this and how we might do this differently. So in Stirling, they've got this disposable cup, but it's a borrowing cup. So what happens is 25 businesses signed up, fantastic, that's really good numbers. So you get a free cup and you have a 2-week period to return the cup and avoid being charged £4. It's an app, so if you're wondering how do they do that, you sign into the app, it's got a QR code, and you will get charged if you don't return it. So, if you keep it, well, you're going to get charged £4 for it, but if you return it, that's not going to happen. Then there's the reusable cup scheme. Sorry, I got this one wrong. That was the North Coast 500, because obviously people were travelling around and they were kind of understanding that they won't be staying in that one place to return the cup. The reusable cup scheme in Stirling is this ditching disposables one. Again, 14 cafes, and what you do is you choose your takeaway drink, you use a £1 deposit for the takeaway, but you don't have to drop it back at the same cafe. If you're moving around the town and you're walking around having your drink of coffee, it's fine. There are other participating cafes you can put the cup into and get your deposit back. And you can have the same cup refilled or swap the cup for a fresh one. And so what that's doing is, that's kind of taking that collection of businesses and everyone's working together, and you're taking away the inconvenience for the customer. And there's one thing that helps people change their behaviour, is you can take away the inconvenience of doing so. So these are two live and really, really, I don't know what the results will be and what will come out of that, but they seem quite good alternatives. And then this is just a bigger example where it's not just reusable cups. In Europe, there's this Recut project, and it's also reusable food containers as well. Exactly the same principles. You order a drink or a takeaway meal, you do your deposit of €1 or €5 as a kind of like sliding scale. You have your drink on the go without any packaging weight, and you can return it to any of the partner locations. And it actually operates across countries as well. So it's not just like in your own the town that you buy it. You can take it to other towns and you can take it to other countries. Now, we're nowhere near that level of sophistication yet in the UK, but it's feasible and it's workable and it's successful. And these are the kind of things that we can do here. And in the kind of materials that they've got, they have lots of kind of explanations for why it's good for customers, why it's good for the planet, why it's good for businesses. Sometimes the business is the kind of bit of a kind of bottleneck. It talks about how they can save money, it can strengthen their image, it avoids waste. There's all sorts of reasons to get everybody on board. So that's a whistle stop. There's so much more going on there, but as Kerry said, we're happy to answer any questions on this. And we'll do so at the end of the session, that's right. But and I know Victoria just said, we just want to say thanks to Kerry. She's an environmental ninja, and I think Oban is very lucky to have her.
Thank you. And thank you very much, Marilyn and Victoria. So next up we have Miriam from Zero Waste Scotland. And I shall just get your presentation up. So would you like to tell everyone where you come from today to join us?
Okay, so hi, I'm Miriam from Zero Waste Scotland, which, if you haven't come across us, we are funded by the Scottish Government and are all about making better use of resources across Scotland. So that's...
Is saying the signal down there? Oh, here we go. There you go.
Say something. Come on, get that hamster wheel going.
Here we go.
Excellent. So yes, so that's me working for Zero Waste Scotland. So let's say our vision is zero waste, and we're all about working across Scotland to try and make that a reality in whatever way we can. And one of the key things we are all about is the circular economy. I don't know how many people have heard of the circular economy? Some, yeah, absolutely brilliant. But if you haven't, basically, quite a simple idea really, that in the past we had a linear economy. So we made things, we used them, we throw them away, which is great, but there's no such place as away. Everything's got to go somewhere, and we're also running out of things at the beginning of that chain. What we've been working towards recently is more of a recycling economy, so we recycle whatever we can. But not everything can be recycled, and it takes resources to recycle. Some things can only be recycled a certain number of times before the quality is so poor that it's worthless. So what we're trying to aim for is a circular economy, where we use things again and again and again, and hopefully they never end up in the bin. And that's a far better way of working for the environment, but can also be good for so many other things. So for example, it does mitigate the impact of resource scarcity. You can see when the Russian war thing happened, that we were struggling to get oil, we were struggling to get other things. So if we're not having to constantly extract new materials and rely on getting things from other countries, then that is going to be a benefit to us. Also, material consumption does have an impact on so many other things. I always get people saying, it's all right, when I go and buy my mushrooms, I don't get them in a plastic tub, I get them in a paper bag. But where does this paper bag come from? You've still got to chop down trees, and it's still single use. Once it gets a bit soggy, it falls apart, so you can't use it again. It reduces the impact of extraction and disposal. Disposal, as I said, there's no such thing as a way. But also the circular economy creates local jobs. Buying all your brand new shiny plastic rubbish, half of it comes from, or probably more than half of it comes from places like China. If we're buying reused, second-hand, we're repairing things, a lot of that creates local jobs in Scotland. So it's going to be much, much better for us as individuals, for our possible careers and our economy. And so because of that, we're really trying to push things up the waste hierarchy. So ideally, we want to prevent waste. We can avoid using things that are going to go to waste at all. That's going to be best. If we can reuse things, that's great. Recycling has its place, but it's not the top priority. So we want to avoid and reuse things as much as possible. So what do we actually do at Zero Waste Scotland? So we work with loads and loads of different people. So the first one is really, we are kind of a delivery body for the Scottish Government. So they fund us to kind of put in place what they want to do. So for example, at the moment we're working on a circular economy bill. So this is a Scottish Government initiative, but we are helping to communicate it. And the idea is this is looking at how we make Scotland more sustainable. So things like, we talked a lot about coffee cups. One thing they're looking at is, okay, we've done a lot of work trying to encourage everyone to take reusable coffee cups. And it's kind of working, but really painfully slowly. Single-use coffee cups are still the norm. So what about if we charged an additional fee for a single-use coffee cup? It's a bit like the plastic bag tax. Would people suddenly go, oh, actually, I don't want to pay for a carrier bag. I'll take a coffee cup. I'll take my own coffee cup. So looking at things like that and looking at getting businesses to take more responsibility for the cost of recycling and disposing of their packaging. It was already mentioned about the Single-Use Plastics Directive last year, which banned a whole load of single-use plastic items. So again, that was a Scottish Government decision to do that, but we were kind of involved in the communicating of that to the public and trying to help support businesses. So they're just a couple of examples of what we do with the government. In terms of businesses, again, we want to work with businesses because I know a lot of businesses think that actually doing environmental things can cost them money, but actually we want to try and help them make money by also reducing waste, so trying to make it as painless as possible. So we've got a lot of services like our circular economy business support service. Food waste is a huge, huge target for us, trying to reduce food waste in Scotland by 1/3, so working with businesses around that. We do a lot around green skills as well, so there's a lot of people who will say, Kerry and a few of us work in an environmental role, but actually in any job, an element of green skills could be really useful, and trying to really make that the norm, that everybody has green skills. From time to time we have funding, so we just closed the Circular Textiles Fund, and that was working with the textile industry trying to find some really innovative solutions to reducing textile waste. And we have guidelines and things like circular procurement, so trying to help businesses that when they're buying things for their business, they do it in a way that is going to be more circular. In terms of coffee cups, we've already mentioned the Sterling Coffee Cup scheme. So that's running at the moment. I think it's due to end in October, so hopefully we'll have some good results for you then and can let you know. We also ran a pilot last year in Portobello near Edinburgh, which was not just coffee cups. We worked with a number of businesses and we kind of gave them the choice of what single-use items they wanted to look at. So we only had one on that looked at coffee cups, and that's quite small scale. But they had ones looking at things like sauce sachets and takeaway containers and napkins and things like that, so try and look wider at single-use items, because all those sorts of things can make quite a big difference. But also put at the bottom, last week I actually took a week's leave from Zero Waste Scotland and worked at the UCI Cycling World Championships. I don't know if anyone watched that on the telly or went to see it, but I stayed quite close to Glen Tress where the mountain biking was, and we had about 12-13 food vendors there, a lot of them selling teas and coffees, so I was managing a reusable coffee cup scheme there, which was absolutely manic. But we reused, I don't know, probably about 10 to 15,000 reusable coffee cups during the 10 days of that. So I'm waiting to get some stats back from the company that we used to provide the cups and see how many got lost or whatever, but I'm writing a report on that as well, so if anyone's interested in that, I will send you details. So that was a very different kind of environment to the ones we've talked about, but a lot of very valuable learning. We also support local authorities, so obviously they have a big part to play in reducing waste across Scotland. So we do things like if they have service changes, so if they're maybe changing what can go in the recycling, or they're introducing new bins or things like that, we work with them to try and make sure they communicate it effectively and it works well. service disruption, when things like COVID hit, or there's bin strikes or things like that, we try and work with them. There's loads of toolkits, so like this one was about recycling batteries, so trying to provide them with useful stuff that they can go out and communicate with the public. We run Recycle Week every year, which again, the main people, that get involved are local authorities because they have recycling targets. And there is a website there, zerowastepartners.org.uk, that is the case, got cut off, but there's a load of tools on there for local authorities, but actually anyone can go in there and they can use the stuff on there. So it's a bit of a nightmare to navigate. Our IT people are looking at it, but there's a lot of useful stuff if you can find it. If you can't, you can always come back to me and I'll try and find it for you. And community groups. So groups like the Rab Trust, we want to try and help in any way we can. A lot of it is about giving inspiration and signposting. So I'll speak to a lot of groups who really don't know where to begin or what to do. But actually so many waste projects have been done elsewhere. So often it's a case of just saying, have you spoken to these people? These people are doing it really well. Go and speak to them. Or giving ideas. So if you've got a group that's really keen to do something but you don't know where to start, we can have a chat. We fund a share and repair network. So Circular Communities Scotland, who you may have heard of, used to be called CRNS, run this service for us, and they are helping any community groups that want to set up things like tool libraries or repair cafes or do anything around sort of reuse and sharing. And they will signpost people, they will help them, they'll put in touch with other groups, things like that. We've got loads of resources on the website, so things like the Highland Community Composting Guide, which is quite good. It talks about a lot of the things like legislation. A lot of people don't know what they can and can't compost and how they can use it. And the school's resources on there about food waste, recycling, litter, all those sorts of things. For anyone who's thinking about setting up community fridges, we are about to reopen our community fridge fund. So has anyone got a community fridge near them? No. Oh, the idea of these are that it's all about reducing food waste. So most of them work with local supermarkets. So for example, if the co-op's got a load of food that is used by tomorrow or the day after and they want to get rid of it, they can put it in the community fridge and anyone can take it. So it's not a food bank, it's not about poverty, you don't have to be referred to it, it is about reducing food waste. So the fund will be reopening very shortly, so if anyone is interested, again, let me know and I'll make sure you're on the mailing list for when that comes out. On a similar vein, we have a food redistribution matchmaking service. So if you're looking at doing something like that and want to find sources of unwanted food, we can help with that. And we do lots of talks, so I go out and about, not always to places quite as nice as Oban, but get to go out and talk about things like general waste prevention, love food, hate waste, so the food waste is a big one, textile waste, single-use plastics is a very popular topic, talk about how we can reduce that. Trial period is about the reusable menstrual products, so like Kerry mentioned with the project you've been doing here, which sounds really good, and I'm going to have a nosy in that box in a minute. And lastly, we run campaigns. So this is more about communicating to everybody. So I mentioned Recycle Week. We've got European Week for Waste Reduction that is coming up in November. This is a European-wide campaign. They still let us in despite Brexit. But this year, the theme is packaging. So quite appropriate with us talking about cups and single-use plastics. If anyone wants to do anything that week, the idea is we want people all across Scotland to organise events, and England as well, so to organise events and then put them on the EWWR website and they will promote them. And it preferably will be about packaging, but actually you can do anything that is about reducing waste. But the idea is to make a really big bang and do a lot of things in that week. So yeah, get involved. And we've had various other campaigns. The recent ones are Campaign, which was a Love Food Hate Waste campaign. Okay, my words are muddled up now. But about promoting the benefits of canned food, to say that actually they have a really long shelf life, so they reduce food waste, but also the cans are recyclable. And it can be quite a cheap way to eat, and you can make some really nice meals. Down the Drain was a campaign that was all about reducing drinks waste, because people forget about drinks. It's like, we must reduce food waste, but I'll just pour that half a bottle of Coke down the drain. And actually that has an impact on the environment, and having spoken to some people, it's actually pouring milk down the drain has a far more damaging effect than so many other things we do. So it's just trying to raise awareness of that. And trial period is the other one I had mentioned before. So that's me really. I've got Kerry's got my slides, so I don't know if you're sending anything out afterwards, but obviously if anyone wants these and wants any of these links, that's all on there. So please do follow us and get in touch if you've got any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, so I've got 2 forms of recording on the go. I'm hoping at least one of them works today that I'll be making available online. And if you join the email list, then I can also email things out to you. So if you want it by email, I will put your email on your sticker and stick it on the board, but I will be making it generally available as well. So next up, we have a virtual speaker. So bear with me while I try and get the technology working. Hopefully she's still there. She spoke to us earlier, but I'm hoping she does. You're still here. Fantastic. Voice from the abyss. Right.
We're in a good space to talk about litter and waste at the moment. There's a lot having just been published or a lot in the pipeline that will hopefully tackle some of the problems, or at the very least help us understand where we need to go next. And particularly in the coffee cup space, we're looking at potential cup charges. As much as it's been pushed back again, we're looking at mandatory take back for single-use cups, so disincentivising the use of single-use over reusables. Now, the first campaign I wanted to touch on, as much as the goal tier is reusable cups, in the interim, or in the absence of exclusive reusables, we are looking at how we improve recycling of coffee cups. So yes, they can't be recycled in mixed recycling bins, in Scotland at all, in fact, but some of the big brands out there can and will take back coffee cups to recycle over the border. So we're working with those brands, and they are Pret, Nero, McDonald's, Starbucks, Greggs have just come on stream as well. And all these brands are happy to take back any coffee cup, their own or other brands, to recycle them in store. So we're working across Glasgow and Dundee in the next month or so to encourage people to take back those single-use coffee cups. Alongside that message, we're always encouraging reuse, but in the interim and in the absence of, whether someone forgets them, there's this alternative. And as part of that campaign, we've done some bin composition analysis to understand what's in bins and and I guess using that as a tool to evaluate the success of the campaign, but also looking at promoting the stores that are taking back, raising awareness of the fact they can be recycled, but only in this stream, and then on the ground using certain nudge techniques to encourage people and remind people when they're out and about to take the behaviour of binning a cup, hopefully, to take it back to one of the stores. The plan for this campaign, as I said, is to be in Glasgow and Dundee this year, but at the end of the year we will be evaluating it, and next year hoping to maybe take it national. We know the brands involved are very keen to keep this going, many of which will take back cups outside these 2 cities, so it's maybe worth asking if you're near one of them. And I guess what we're trying to do is increase the demand for recycling, so the infrastructure gets a little bit better for when mandatory take back comes into effect. And then I want to talk about our Highland Cup Movement campaign. So this was mentioned earlier, and it's the campaign that's running on the NC 500 route. So we're funded to coordinate that campaign alongside the NC 500. And it's been a really successful campaign. It's a pilot, like many of these are at the moment, and it's operating until September. I will be doing a heavy piece of evaluation. So again, look out for that towards the end of this calendar year. But the Highland Cup Movement campaign, I guess, aimed to encourage reuse around the NC 500 up in the Highlands, and had a very long lead in time. And I think that's really important to highlight, because I think that's what's made it a little bit different and quite successful in that we were able to spend a lot of time talking to businesses, talking to local people about what the barriers are to reusables up in the Highlands. We also managed to do some public polling to understand what people wanted, and found that they were concerned about single use and they wanted businesses to do something about that, and that helped us communicate with businesses to try and get them to do something and join the scheme. So we launched it in April, so it's been running since April. And what we came up with, I guess, was a loan model rather than a deposit scheme. So again, as was already highlighted, it's a sort of QR code. You sign out a cup, and you can check it back in along the route and not be charged a thing, so long as you check it back in within 2 weeks. So it's very convenient for businesses. They don't have to handle any extra money. They don't have to have an extra setting on their till. They just need the QR code. And it means if you're traveling, you don't need to go back to wherever you bought your coffee cup from. So there was 25 businesses signed up. I think we're at 21 operating now, but we actually have a list of lots of businesses who wanted or want now to be part of the scheme. So we'll look into how we maybe induct them in the months to come. And as I said, they're along the NC 500 and promoted centrally. Visit Scotland are heavily involved and they help us promote the campaign and how to get involved. And it's been great to see businesses really passionate and committed to trying something new, something that might have seemed, or maybe is, a little bit of a hassle for them in times, but they want to do something about this. So where we're at now with it, as I said, 25 signed up, 21 active. We've got a live counter of how many cups have been checked out on our website. So I think it's now over 730 odd. But alongside the Vital cups being used, we are obviously encouraging anyone to take back a reusable cup. And we've seen double the number of reusable cups used en route. So that's really important. It's not just about encouraging the use of this one cup, but any reusable cups. And what we've really had to put thought into is the marketing strategy for this, to make sure people knew ahead of time that they could use this scheme. And one of the key challenges with the Highlands, and it no doubt would be maybe the same out in Oban or Argyll and Bute, is data signals. So we have to get people to download the app when they've got enough signal on their mobile phone, when they're in a Wi-Fi hotspot, so that they can download the app to use it. And quite often it's the case that they didn't know about it, went to a coffee shop and could then get data to download and use the app. So we've had to look at how we market the campaign. Do we do it in Perth as people are about to jump on a train? Do we do it in Inverness? And having enough take back points along the route so people don't get charged when they maybe didn't want to. And finally, then, just for me, teasing out some of our learnings over the last few years and how we operate in this space. For me, understanding your audience and the motivations of your audience is really important. We can be guilty of thinking, oh, we need that, we need this is a problem, this is why no one wants to do that. But actually speaking to people about what the barriers are can be really, really helpful. And for us, with this campaign, what is it that businesses want us to support them with? And working with those businesses then, or working with partners to get them involved so that they have, a sense of ownership over your campaign. They are invested in making it a success alongside you, and will report back on how they're genuinely finding it, so that you can learn. Then for me, to get everyone involved is to highlight the benefits to all, particularly the local authorities. What can they get from this? We're trying, for the cup recycling campaign, we're trying to reduce what goes into their general waste and reducing contaminants in their mixed recycling waste. But then also considering those wider impacts, in terms of ownership, in terms of climate change and biodiversity crises. For businesses, about that extra marketing they get from this campaign. We have a map on our website. We're promoting all the businesses through social media, and we're working with Visit Scotland to promote the businesses as well. So they're getting a lot of marketing benefit from the campaign. And then finally, trying to make sure you monitor and evaluate campaigns properly, and that includes accepting if it doesn't work and helping others learn from whether it's a mistake or just a trial that didn't go to plan is always really important. As I said, we're doing a big piece of evaluation for both Take It Back and the cup movement up in the Highlands over the next sort of 4 months, and we'll make those findings public, and we'll be looking to work with others in future trials for both of them as well. So hopefully you were able to hear most of that and see most of that. I don't know, Kerry, whether that worked or not.
Thank you. We've been doing our best. You dropped it occasionally, but right. I think we got the gist of it. So thank you very much.